A question that's been puzzling people for ages. Why on earth did Russia sell Alaska to the United States? Alaska, the largest state in the US, is a treasure trove of natural resources, oil, fish, minerals, and breathtaking scenery. But back in 1867, when the US bought it from Russia, people on both sides were scratching their heads. So, what was the real reason Russia decided to let go of Alaska? Let's rewind to 1741. That's when Vitus Bering first sailed from Russia to Alaska, opening it up for fur traders and entrepreneurs. But there was one tiny problem. Alaska already had people living there, and they weren't exactly thrilled about the Russian invasion. Things boiled over in 1802 when the Tlingit people attacked a Russian outpost, sparking 2 years of warfare. This was just one of the many headaches for the Russian-American company, set up to exploit Alaska's riches. At first, the company thrived under Alexander Baranov's leadership. He maintained good relations with the native tribes, which kept the profits rolling in. But after he retired, things went downhill fast when the Russian military took over. In a bid to boost profits, they slashed prices paid for furs. Trappers, desperate to make ends meet, overhunted otters, leading to the collapse of the fur trade. Without those profits, Alaska suddenly became a financial burden for Russia. On top of that, Alaska's unforgiving climate made it tough to survive. Supplying these remote outposts from Russia, thousands of miles away, proved nearly impossible. So, in 1811, the Russian-American company tried setting up a new fur trading post in California, hoping to grow food for Alaska. It didn't work out, and by 1839 they'd wiped out the otter population there too. Defending such a vast territory with a population of only 800 people was another logistical nightmare. Alaska's vulnerability became especially clear during the Crimean War in the 1850s. Russia's enemies controlled the seas, threatening to cut them off from Alaska entirely. By the war's end, Russia was in no shape to defend Alaska. With British and American whalers already encroaching on their territory, the Tsar worried a potential gold rush would overwhelm their outposts. Selling Alaska started to look like a good idea, especially considering the gold rush that actually happened in 1897. So why sell to the US and not Canada? Because in the late 1850s, when Russia was considering the sale, Canada was still part of Britain-Russia's old war buddy. On the other hand, relations between Russia and the US were pretty good, so strengthening those ties made diplomatic sense. Historian Susan Smith-Peter explains it perfectly. From the Russian point of view, the deal made a lot of sense. They could irritate Britain and get closer to the United States. Things could have been different though. Canada gained independence just months after Russia sold Alaska to the US. But why on earth did the US even want Alaska? Part of it was the hope of finding gold, but mostly it was manifest destiny, the belief that the US was destined to stretch from the Atlantic to the Pacific. Secretary of State William H. Seward was mocked for buying this frozen land, but he believed America was destined to roll resistless waves to the ice barriers of the North. And he got a steal of a deal, purchasing Alaska for a mere $7.2 million, or 2 cents an acre. Though some called it Seward's folly, he had the last laugh when the Klondike Gold Rush decades later brought hundreds of thousands of settlers to Alaska and $1 billion to the US economy. Meanwhile, Russia was left kicking themselves. Even today, some Russians grumble about Tsar Alexander II selling Alaska for peanuts. In 2014, there were talks about taking Alaska back, mostly in jest of course, and hardliners still believe the Tsar made a huge mistake. They're right. If Russia still owned Alaska, they'd control all those resources. Oil, minerals, fisheries. The US wouldn't have strategic military bases there, or a claim to the Arctic, giving them no say in climate change issues.